Okay. Mario, I would love to introduce you to Liraz.
יש לך כיס? I'll
see you later. לא.
כיס?
לא.
תחזיקי את זה ביד?
כן. טוב, צלם אותי גם סטילס, כי שמתי קטע. זה עובד? חד. אוקיי, רוצים להתחיל? רגע. אהלן. לדבר לזה או לזה? ככה זה טוב? לופו, אני בשידור לייב בפייסבוק שלי? אז אסור לפשל היום, אסור לשתות. איפה רפי? רפי, לא לצלם את ה... אז יאללה. מה, באנגלית? כן, מה עם המוזיקה? הם מתלהבים מהראש העיר, הם שכחו שיש את האירוע שלנו. תקרא להם רגע. כן, רפי. זה יעזור לאורנית לקבל החלטה על החסות? לא יודע. תנסה. בטוח. טוב, יאללה, מתחילים. אז good evening and welcome fellow socializers to our meetup, the popcorn model of innovation. Okay, so we have a very special event tonight because we're going to announce Socialize 14, the social business festival that I'm running with Professor Ariely during June 11 to 18. Socialize is an organization dedicated to understanding and utilizing social influence. Socialize provides frameworks for knowledge sharing on the opportunities for business in a social technological enhanced world. It is open, independent, and venture natural. Since 2012, Socialize chapters have been meeting offline at physical monthly events in Israel and Silicon Valley, and our friend Mario Herger from Palo Alto is running Socialize in Silicon Valley. So I would love to share with you a video clip on StartUpOnomics that will take place in Royal Beach, Tel Aviv from June 13 to 15. And we have few guests here today. Liraz Lasri from University of Tel Aviv. She's going to be one of the speakers at Socialize, at StartUpOnomics, and in Socialize 14 main events, June 17. So let's just see this video. מחדש.
שמי דן אריאלי, אני מרצה לפסיכולוגיה וכלכלה בדיוק בארצות הברית. ותחום העיסוק שלי נקרא כלכלה פסיכולוגיה וכלכלה, שמסתכל על איך אנשים מתנהגים באמת, לא איך הם צריכים להתנהג לפי העקרונות הכלכליים. מה שבעיקר מעניין בכלכלה התנהגותית זה שבשנים האחרונות מעבדה. והתחלנו לבדוק איך אנשים באמת מתנהגים. איך אנשים חושבים על תשלום, ואיך אנשים חושבים על... מיני דברים שקשורים באמת לחיים היומיומיים שלנו. ובשלוש שנים האחרונות ארגנתי סדנה לסטארט-אפ שבהם אנחנו מנסים לעזור לסטארט-אפס להבין עקרונות מכלכלה התנהגותית ומדעי החברה ולחשוב על איך ליישם את העקרונות האלה עסקים הספציפיים שלהם. ושנה אחת שידרנו את זה לישראל, עוד שנה אחת האחרונה זה לא כל כך יצא, אבל קרן ואני השנה עושים את הכנס גם בישראל באופן חי. ללמוד מרחוק זה דבר נחמד, אבל ללמוד מקרוב, לשאול שאלות ולהתעמק בדברים באופן אחד על אחד. אז StartUpOnomics ישראל יקרה כל מי שחושב על התנהגות אנושית, כל מי שקשור לנסות להבין או לשכנע התנהגות ללמוד מזה. וזה נכון לסטארט-אפס, אנשים שיש להם רק רעיון התחלתי, או אנשים שיותר מתקדמים, או אפילו חברות מתקדמות שרוצות לחשוב של אנשים את ההתנהגות עם המוצרים שלהם. אנשים דיזיין של אנשים שמתכננים תוכנות שחושב על התנהגות אנושית. בעצם חברות יש להם איזשהו ממשק עם בן אדם, עם האנשים. ואם אנחנו חושבים אנחנו נתכנן מסוג אחד, ואנחנו חושבים שאנשים הם לא רציונליים, אנחנו נתכנן ממשק מסוג שונה. אז באמת להבין איך אנשים עובדים בשביל להבין מה צריך לתכנן בשבילהם, זה מאוד מאוד חשוב. אז אנחנו מזמינים לכנס שלנו, אנחנו מקווים ודי בטוחים שיהיה מעניין ושכולנו נלמד מזה ושדברים יתקדמו. אז מחכה לראות אתכם שמה, להתראות בינתיים.
But I wasn't the only person that made good job this year. I would like to invite Yaniv Keren to the stage and share with us some information about the cooperation that he was able to establish with a gamification MOOC, Kevin Werbach of Wharton University. And Kevin and Yaniv are going to conduct a gamification workshop as part of the festival, and I'm happy to be their host. So Yaniv, please come up here. Woo.
Hello everyone, thank you. I was not aware that we're doing this in English, so I'm going to simultaneously translate everything I prepared in Hebrew to English. My name is Yaniv Corem. I used to lead the gamification research back at IBM Research up in Haifa. Today I have my own consultancy firm that's called Palyful Meme. You can Google it or come back after this and just ask me about it and I'll give you my card. I recently came back from the Media Lab, MIT Media Lab, where I did some research on gamification, user behavior, user engagement. And I've also put together some strategic kind of relationships, one of them with Professor Kevin Werbach from the Wharton School in Pennsylvania. Kevin runs the only, as far as I know, the only MOOC on gamification, the only online course, Coursera course on gamification, which means that he's tremendously successful. He's had over 150,000 people join his course, which is an amazing accomplishment. He's an amazing person, a real educator. And together with Keren, come June 18th, we're putting together a workshop on gamification. It's going to be something new, something fresh, something unique. I encourage you all to register. You're going to come in with a an idea, a concept, maybe a product, a service, or anything that comes to mind at the beginning of the day. And by the end of the day, you're going to have a framework, an outline for a gamification project. So hope to see you there. Did I forget anything? No. Okay. Thank you. And thank Keren for inviting me and everyone else. Thank you.
Am I getting it as well?
Yeah.
So is it
This is only for the camera.
This is only for a camera.
So all the information on Socialize Cooking Festival is on our website, and you can take the cards from the bar.
Thank you.
Registration is open, and early bird registration can save you lots of money. You know where your pitch is?
My presentation, if you closed it. Okay, yeah. This one. Right.
Ladies
Is this
and
full?
gentlemen,
Is this full screen?
Mario Herger.
Thank you very much. Is this full screen? How do we run it? Full screen? No.
Wait.
Here goes the presentation. 1 second, you moved my beautiful image.
Sorry.
Okay. Here's the full screen. Shalom. Shalom. Hello. Welcome, everyone. I feel like a rock star. I've never had drums on a stage or some loudspeakers here. I never had a tiara. I got it from Keren. She had 2 of them, so she gave me 1. I'm talking today about the popcorn model of innovation. And when we talk about innovation, innovation is, who is this? Anyone familiar with this gentleman here? Edison, exactly, yeah. So, and may know from Thomas Edison that he has not only invented the light bulb, but tons of other technologies that we're using today. For example, the movie industry, he had the first movie studio, yeah? Or we know about sounds and the sound recording that he did. So everything, a lot of stuff that we have here is actually based on his inventions. But is it really his inventions? This is actually his team. It was not an individual that was doing that stuff. He had a lot of people working on that. He had several dozen people in his Menlo Park Edison lab where they were doing stuff. So one of the important things of doing innovation and being inventive and creative is working with others together. Who's this guy? Tesla, right, exactly. So it's not the car, it's a person. Yeah, it's Nikola Tesla. He was also an inventor, but he was socially a little bit awkward. He didn't like working with other people. So some of his inventions did not go anywhere. But one of the messages here is innovation, an exchange of ideas is always where people meet, like here. And what are the best ideas that are coming out of here after some alcohol? These are the craziest ideas, and you never know, maybe here's the next startup and the next great technology coming up when you have some fun. So in the past, of course, these were the trade networks, the routes where all the ships and the merchants were going. Yeah? Like, for example, here, the Roman trade network, where people met at the cross points. Or then, once we somehow liberated ourselves a little bit from religion in the 15th century, at least for the places the place where I am from, suddenly people started looking differently at things. Or being from Vienna, Austria, where coffee house culture is very important, and I had already yesterday and today exploring the Tel Aviv coffee house scene. This is where people met and exchanged ideas and where revolutions started. The only thing that I noticed here is there's only one woman somewhere here. The rest are men. Does not mean, of course, that women are not innovative and inventive. total opposite. Other places then in high density areas, like for example New York or cities, like Tel Aviv, people live very close together, talk about stuff, exchange ideas, and create something new. And this meetup here is something similar. You come here to listen to ideas, to listen what people say, and you go home with some inspirations. And maybe tomorrow you start the next $966 million company bought by Google, like Waze a few months ago. It's not just anymore limited to locations like a city or a coffee house or a meetup group. With open source and internet, we can meet everywhere, people coming together and working together on things. Now, I'm from Austria, and what we say is the Austrians inventor dilemma, which means we invented everything but never brought it out to the masses. So we invented, but what's missing is the execution. Here you see 3 examples of things that Austrians claim to have invented, but never really gotten out to the folks. One is the sewing machine, The other one is the propeller for ships, and the third one is the typing machine. They were all built and sold then by somebody else, and we're still complaining and whining about how bad it is in Austria. That's why, example, end of May, I'm doing an event in Austria, which is called Silicon Valley Meets Austria, and the keynote speaker will be an Israeli, talking about how the Israelis are doing it right. This is Saul Singer, the co-author of Startup Nation. So, innovation is invention plus execution. With innovation, we ask, what is changing? So it could be a solution that we have. It could be a business model that we changed, like Tupperware or Groupon. Tupperware, are you familiar with Tupperware? Yeah. So how is it sold? How are they selling stuff? Do they have stores? No, they sell it through friends and families, exactly. Or it could be something else, like process or organizational innovation. Outsourcing or gamification are just 2 examples of that. Also, we look at what is changing when we innovate. For example, it could be a component, just a faster chip in your computer, or something like a chip that is completely different. You don't run that chip anymore in a computer, you run it in a mobile device with completely different. It's slower, but it's using less energy, so the architecture changes completely here. Also, for whom is something changing? It could be the company, for example, from manual labor to robots that do that stuff. It could be for the customer. Before that, you bought VHS tapes, or you got a CD or DVD sent, and now you stream it. Who is actually using still DVDs here? Or it's an industry that changes from bulk loading to container ships, and suddenly the whole thing and whole jobs are moving, shifting away, and creating new spaces. Also, how much is new? It could be something like incremental innovation, do it better. So, for example, here, corn. Corn in the normal state you couldn't eat. If you boil it, you're getting something that is edible, that you can eat. Or you take it and make something completely different. You pop it like popcorn, and suddenly it goes from a hard corn to a soft thing that has nothing in resemblance with the original thing. What about rules? And I know Israelis are a little bit unruly in any sense. They're not letting themselves limit through rules. They're always trying to get first in line by taking a shortcut, even if they're sent back. And that's sometimes good, sometimes not. But first, of course, incremental innovation respects the rules. So we work within the framework that we have and just make it a little bit better, a little bit faster, a little bit something. But when we bend the rules, then we have disruptive innovation. Think of a couple of examples that are just right now. Uber, a taxi service, that's completely different than the taxi license business that you have today. Or Airbnb changes completely the hotel business, the way it is done. And they're changing rules, they're bending laws. crowdfunding, crowd investing. Suddenly you have different forms of what is done and how many people spend money. Now let's take a look at the video to show you of how rules actually can limit us. And that's the fleas in a jar.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
Exactly, escape the circus and live beyond the limits. Don't follow the rules when you think they don't make sense anymore. When we look at generations of innovation, who is old enough to have lived through floppy disks? Yeah? I'm ashamed to say I'm also that old. So this was basically from an 8-inch disk to a 5.1 inch to a 3.5 inch. But what is the interesting thing here is there's not really much different in the technology. But what happened is that the leading companies in each generation, 50 to 80% of the companies leading in the next generation were not there in the past generation. So even if these were here, we had companies that were leading that, they were not represented here anymore. And those who led there were not represented here anymore. That's not just the floppy disk business. Yeah? Just look at cell phones. Who had a Blackberry 5-6 years ago? Who had a Blackberry? None of you? Other cell phones? Who has a Blackberry today? Right. I had a Blackberry too for 4 months. Now I have this here. And that feels already old now, the iPhone. Innovation is accelerating. So when we look back at 1970s, we had, when the VCRs came out, we had VHS tapes. Yeah, so there were these pop and mom stores that sold or lent videos. And then 20 years later, a little bit more than 20 years later, came a company that was called Blockbuster, a chain, a video rental chain that had, squeezed out of the market all these little pop and mom stores. And they had like 15 years of time to do their business, and then came Netflix. And they had a completely different business model. They had not any more brick and mortar stores. They brought the DVDs and VHS. They didn't even have VHS tapes. They had DVDs that they send you through mail. But Netflix had only 5 years time just to go on the streaming model, because now there are other companies as well that are have streaming models. So we go from 20, 25 years to 15 years to 5 years, and now they're all competing in the same space, and we don't even know where we are going. And this is not just TV anymore. We watch stuff everywhere on every device that we can imagine. Yeah. The same is true for the cell phone business or the phone business. In 2000, I had a Nokia phone. Then came this one with the keyboard. Then we had Blackberries. Then came the iPhone, changed everything completely, and Apple didn't even have time. There were within a year knockoffs from Samsung, and now the most sold smartphones are actually from Samsung, our Android devices. Yeah, even if Apple invented the market, there's no time to rest on your laurels anymore. Here an example from the Papal elections. In 2005 there was one, and in 2013 there was one. That's a picture of how the people are waiting to see the announcement of who is the new Pope. Yeah, and you see the change of how fast things are coming. There was nothing like that, and here everyone had a smart device. Yeah, a smartphone mobile device that, well, makes a nice mood, I think, as well, with all this. You would think these are candles, but they're not. Now, when you resist innovation, that's the fallacy of the incumbents. These companies who are leading their market at the moment. They're taken hostage by their balance sheet because they look at the hard assets, the bricks and mortar stores that they have, the machines that they have, everything what is there, yeah? Instead of looking at the brand name that they have, the people that they have, the skills in the house, the patents, the expertise. Yeah? These are companies that are more or less all gone. Yeah? I mean, this company is not long here anymore. This company was just acquired and is losing crazily. All the other companies here went bankrupt. They were looking only at their hard assets that they had. Now let me explain you what the popcorn model is, and that's the title of the talk today. Because these incumbents all saw it coming and nobody could react. And why is this the case? So let's think of how we do popcorn. So we take a pan, put some oil in there, we heat up the oil, we put some popcorn in there, some corn in there, and then we wait. And the incumbents are looking at the new technology like a smartphone with touch screen, and they are looking at it and nothing is happening. And they say, nothing is happening, nothing is going on. Yeah? And they wait a few minutes more, still nothing happened. Nothing is happening. It's not hitting us. Yeah? And then suddenly, pop, one kernel pops and you have a popcorn here. Yeah? And they still look at it. In 3 months, nobody will talk about that stuff anymore. Yeah? That's what they said, the Nokia guys or the Blackberry guys. They looked at the smartphone or the iPhone and they said, the hype will be over in 3 months. Yeah? And nobody will be interested in that anymore. And then the second one pops. Yeah? Well, that's just an aberration as well. And then another one pops, pop, 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 pop. And everything is there. And now the incumbents are coming and trying to get in and it's too late. That's what's happening with innovation. If you were looking at that from that perspective. Now here's an example. These are industries that have been disrupted. All this industry, can you imagine what it is? What they got disrupted with? It was the iPhone. So this is a GPS and navigation system. Yeah? In the year after the iPhone came out, 80% of the business was gone. 80% of the business. Is the iPhone, did Apple see the iPhone as a navigation system thing? Did they see this company, Garmin or TomTom, did they see them as competitors? Not at all. These were not competitors. They also did not see game consoles as competitors, or typewriters, or organizers, or dictaphones, yeah, or cameras. That's not what they considered their competitors. They consider themselves, that's a new device. We start out with telephoning, but who actually uses his cell phone or herself or smartphone still to phone? When you look at the time that you spend on your device, it's more likely that you spend it more on chatting, on texting, on SMSing, on looking up emails, on posting pictures of crazy guys with tiaras on Facebook, yeah, like Yaniv did with me. And maybe you use it for phoning. Yeah? Maybe you use it for that as well. Now, in order to manage that, to handle that, you would look at an innovation management framework to look at the strategy that you have, the process and methodologies, the people and networks, orchestration, governance. And you try to execute, because if you do not execute an invention, it's not innovation. One thing that I always want to bring up, because I have seen that way too often, is idea committees, juries, all these things where people are looking at your ideas or the ideas of others, and then think they can decide this is an innovation and this is not an innovation. So everyone thinks they are Steve Jobs. Yeah? Are they Steve Jobs? I'm not Steve Jobs. Nobody is, because there was only one Steve Jobs, and even he didn't see many things. Yeah, and why do we think now people on an innovation committee and in the jury can make decisions of what is an innovation or what not, or what's not? They cannot, because often they were nominated only on their title or position, not because they are so smart or clever. Yeah. They may have not much knowledge actually about the markets or the topics, and even if they have on this small segment, they may be functionally blind on that. Not to say that they're stupid, it's just I don't know everything. I just know a little thing, And here I may be actually blinded by what I know. And it's very difficult to identify good or promising ideas. You know Twitter? Anyone knows? If I had seen this idea 5 years ago or 10 years ago, I would have said, such a stupid idea. Yeah. Who would be interested in that? You know? Who am I to judge? Yeah? And probably most of you would have thought 140 characters for Twitter, but who would use that? Well, it looks like hundreds of millions of people are finding that a good idea. And then often, idea committees, these people on these idea committees, they have no stake in the idea. They are not personally invested in that. So for them, it doesn't care at all. So an idea committee, generally speaking, averages out the evaluation, and what bubbles on top is just random and accidental. What is a little bit better is to use crowds, people who contribute to that, people who spot a trend, people who make a case for an idea, the evangelists, people who have a huge network and talk about that and are passionate about that. People who are skeptic about it, yeah? So you get some Germans in there, and then you have some skeptics. They keep the conversation honest. And then you need general participants, everyone, just to look at that. Anyone knows this gentleman here? No one? Shai Gassi, of course, yeah. Israeli, if you don't know it. Yeah. So he's, you may have heard about his glass company, Better Place. Yeah, what happened to that? It went under. Is it good? Is it bad? Awesome. Yeah. So for the company, of course, it's not good. Yeah. But for the idea, for the principle, for this whole thing, it's very good. Not that he went under, but that he was there to push it. If you think back of it, the railway system, the first investors, all these companies went down. Yeah. Only later generations of investors were successful with that. The Eurotunnel, this is this tunnel with the train going from France to England. Yeah, there were, I think, 3 or 4 consortiums that went under bankrupt before. And now it's operating, nobody's talking about that anymore. So you need people like Shai Gassi to come up with crazy ideas and invest and risk everything that they have, from money to reputation to, I don't know, family, etc. Yeah, because they lay the path for the others who are following. Yeah, we need many of those people. And now this is Tesla, and what does Elon Musk show? How to replace the batteries in the car within 90 seconds. Yeah, so he basically does the same, where Shai Gassi has done all this pre-work basically and prepared the audiences and the people to see it as normal. So we need first innovators. We also need first adopters, because these are the people who are willing to spend the first time money and give feedback on that. Yeah. So we have typically the people who innovate, and then the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and then those people who are forced to take it, the laggards. Yeah. Why are they important? They provide the much needed cash flow. They keep them alive. They have a high tolerance of pain, but they show it. Yeah? They go through these first iterations. They provide valuable feedback, and they make the case of the product and service to the others. In the Silicon Valley, within 4 weeks after the iPad was out, when you went to a coffee house, you saw all the people with iPads there. Yeah? So these are the people that you need. Let's take a look at the next video, the first followers. And you may know that.
If you've learned a lot about leadership and making a movement, then let's watch a movement happen, start to finish, in under 3 minutes, and dissect some lessons. First, of course, a leader needs the guts to stand alone and look ridiculous. But what he's doing is so simple, it's almost instructional. This is key. You must be easy to follow. Now here comes the first follower with a crucial role. He publicly shows everyone else how to follow. Notice how the leader embraces him as an equal. So it's not about the leader anymore, it's about them, plural. Notice how he's calling to his friends to join in. So it takes guts to be a first follower. You stand out, you brave ridicule yourself. Being a first follower is an underappreciated form of leadership. The first follower transforms a lone nut into a leader. If the leader is the flint, the first follower is the spark that really makes the fire. Now here's the second follower. This is a turning point. It's proof the first has done well. Now it's not a lone nut and it's not two nuts. 3 is a crowd and a crowd is news. A movement must be public. Make sure outsiders see more than just the leader. Everyone needs to see the followers because new followers emulate followers, not the leader. Now here come 2 more people, then 3 more immediately. Now we've got momentum. This is the tipping point and now we have a movement. As more people jump in, it's no longer risky. If they were on the fence before, there's no reason not to join in now. They won't stand out, they won't be ridiculed, and they will be part of the in crowd if they hurry. And over the next minute, you'll see the rest who prefer to stay part of the crowd, because eventually they'd be ridiculed for not joining. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how a movement is made. So let's recap what we've learned. If you are a version of the shirtless dancing guy, all alone, remember the importance of nurturing your first alone. Remember goals, making everything clearly about the movement, not you. Be public, be easy to follow. But the biggest lesson here, did you catch it? Leadership is overglorified. Yes, it started with the shirtless guy, and he'll get all the credit. But you saw what really happened. It was that transformed a lone nut into a leader. There's no movement transformed a lone nut in. See, we're told that we all need to be leaders, but that would be really first follower. We're told that we all make a movement, if you really care, is to courageously follow and show others how to follow. When you find a lone nut doing something great, have the guts to be the first person to stand up and join in.
There's so many choices that you have. You can be the first innovator, you can be the first adopter, you can be the first follower, so there's no excuse not to participate. Adoption models accelerate. So we've seen this original curve here, this flatter curve, but now you have WhatsApp, you have early adopters, and then suddenly, boom, everyone is on there, 450 million people on there. Yeah, and maybe it dies as quickly as it came up there, but this is accelerating. We see a lot of other things everywhere happening, crowd investing, crowdfunding, everywhere disrupting different businesses. I was recently at an event in Palo Alto where we had some investors there and they were looking at who are the biggest investors. And it turns out that the biggest VC fund actually is only number 6 because the 5 biggest ones are companies like Intel investing into companies. And that is not representing the complete picture because a lot of these new companies and startups are not even coming to them anymore. They're coming through Kickstarter there and getting funded through that thing. So changing completely this space there. Hackathons, another way to bring people together, work on ideas, get it up. Contests, yeah. The first transcontinental flight was actually a contest. And Charles Lindbergh won that. And now we have a lot of others out there. The X Prize is, flying first in suborbital space, or the DARPA Robotic Challenge, or the self-driving vehicles that we see nowadays in the Bay Area driving around from Google and others. They came out of this DARPA contest of self-driving vehicles. And who knows what's going on and what's coming next. Bringing people together, not only through such meetups, but also the way they work in offices, through open space office designs, and through platforms such as this one. You want to see another video? Don't be too enthusiastic. I think you haven't had enough alcohol yet. It's early in the evening.
Joe is a real tinkerer. At home, he's already invented an electric corkscrew and a device to speed up the ripening of his tomatoes. But now, he's onto something that could really change the world.
The Zeppelin rain dispenser.
All he needs to build the first prototype is a little technical help, some special tools, and a place to work. If only there was a way Joe could get to know Mary, an engineering student who has plenty of time she would like to invest in an interesting project. Steve, whose company used to be in the aviation business and who's still wondering what to do with his old machines. and Grandma Lucy, who has a large barn located just 2 blocks away that she no longer uses since retiring from the farming business. Maker Square brings them all together. Maker Square is the lab for curious makers and explorers that enables people to work together and share resources to create new knowledge. How does this work? In order to match project needs and free resources, Maker Square has developed an intelligent ontology-based algorithm. So when Joe introduces his project to the Maker Square community, he first specifies what he needs to complete his task. Maker Square then automatically suggests matching resources that offer to share their experience, knowledge, and tools or services for money or for free. On the other hand, Mary, Steve, and Grandma Lucy get the opportunity to become part of some of the most fascinating projects known to man. And when Joe and his team realize that volunteer resources aren't enough and further revenue is needed, they can easily build a crowdfunding campaign. So whether you have an exciting idea or simply want to be part of one, join us at Maker Square and unleash your inner scientist. Maker Square, the lab for curious makers and explorers. Tiered resources aren't enough and further revenue is needed, they can easily build a crowdfunding campaign. So whether you have you
meet and come together to do some stuff. If you want to learn more, there are a lot of books out there that you can read from different writers, different authors, different companies. All of them, most of them I've read, they're all recommendable. And just keep innovating, keep adopting, keep following, keep buying, keep helping those companies. Thank you very much.
Mizrahi. I met him few months ago at DLD Munich, and I thought to myself, what a nice pitch and talk.
Papa don't pitch.
Yeah, and I was thinking to myself, just because you didn't make friends with Yossi Baldi, weren't invited to DLD Munich, doesn't necessarily mean that you will have to lose this great talk. So, here we are.
Okay, I'm on Yossi Zvarti's gray list, so I'm not going to make any comments. Hi everyone. Not many people, but every one of you is a star. So I like to think about the Foo Fighters in this situation because they show everywhere, and everywhere that they show, what's important for them is that everybody will be happy, everybody will gain, and that's what I'm going to try to do here. So, wait a minute. I have a mic here. What's that for? That's for the for the recording. So I'm going to speak about something that I spoke quite some times before, but it's getting more examples of useless activities and how innovative thinking can help you. You can gain innovative thinking by doing smart and useless and foolish things. Hey, Bruno, we finally meet. So, taking Mario's words previously about activities that going all over the world in like the technology person is meeting other people in makers places and all this movement of creating things together. So I'm going to run through a few groups that are in Israel. One of them is the Garage Geeks. It started as a deserted garage with a bunch of people that just wanted an excuse to get away from the wife and kids and play games together. It's like a men's club. And eventually it turned into thousands of people in this community, all sort of niches. Either it's music or SEO or whatever you wanted to speak about. As long as you're willing to create an event, something will happen. It's all about user-generated and natural cause. So if nobody will come, then maybe it's not that important subject to speak about. Other unconferences that created, I mean, these are just some highlights, and there are many unconferences and meetups just like here, is Kinernet, and I'm going to speak about them in a few slides from now, and Geekon. What's most key points that you can see in the slide that happen in those conventions, they are low budget, user-generated, time-limited, and fun. And it's something that I want to speak about because these are few key points that can teach you how to operate in a resourceless environment. And if you want to accomplish something in your spare time, then you need to focus. You need to make sure that you focus on the right thing. And if you add fun into it, then it also makes the process more fun. So Garage, this is how the place looks like. It's a picture that was taken in a music workshop that we created. It's a picture before the people came over. You can see, if you can see a few lines on the ground. How much time do I have? Plenty of time. So when we finished setting up the event at 6 p.m. before people arrived, I was so excited, me and Eyal Persson, and I was ready to go home because I finished something that I never did before. But eventually the whole workshop was amazing, and people came over and played music for the first time in their life in really quick engaging software called Live. This is another workshop that operated at the Garage. It's a global game jam contest. So these geeks came and for 36 hours developed games over the weekend as part of a global gaming contest. And we also have sessions, and here it's a session about television. You don't see the speaker, it's on the right. And Geekon. Geekon is, it used to be 2 days, and now it's 3 days of, again, 200 people coming, forming into groups. Of course, you have an idea that you create like a proof of concept at home, but you come and you bring everything with you, a car full of electricity or software or whatever you want to create. And it's a real bonanza of soldering and hot glue and alcohol, of course. You see there. Personally, I rather drink just at night and not through the day because you want to make something happen. Usenet, another convention, a small one, just one day, meshing people from the music technology industry and music classic academy, meshing up so you exchanging ideas and trying new things together. And Kinernet, which is sort of the Rio de Janeiro carnival of all conferences. Robots, people jumping around the air, and the waiting list to be part of this conference is way too long. But again, user-generated. So I'm going to start with a personal quote from my early days of making things. And again, I think it comes from constraints. Creativity comes from either you want to make something bigger for other people, or maybe you want to make your mother happy, but the thing you're trying to struggle is probably a constraint. You need to make something smaller. You need to make something faster. And at the early 80s, my motivation was to get a Game Boy. Everybody at school had a Game Boy, and at least that's what I told my parents. And they didn't want to buy me one because you can guess why. So I didn't give up. I took a small box of cards, really small one, with a plastic cover so it was transparent. I created a labyrinth inside with cardboard, threw in some chunks of magnets, and real live ants with big legs were cruising inside the labyrinth. And from underneath, I had another big magnet, and a Pac-Man magnet above was collecting all the chunks of magnets, and it was based on trust and loyalty, because you could know if an ant hit you or not. And people at school was really excited about it and wanted to play this new augmented reality game. Well, at least it was augmented for the game, for the ends. So I'm going to run to you a list of projects that will never be created unless those conventions and ways to create those bursts of creativity. People ask me, when do you have time to create those things? And I tell them, I don't have time. It's just like spontaneous. So most of the time it's important that you have a deadline, like there is a convention. So I need to show it at that time. Or you have a global game jam. There's a contest for creating games. So that's very good to have some milestone. So the first one is a guitar that teaches you how to play. I don't know how to play guitar, and I always want to learn, just wanted. So my vision was to create a guitar that teaches you how to play. Eventually you realize that you need to practice. The guitar will not teach you to practice. And a week before we realized that there is such a product, but it didn't stop us to create something because you should enjoy the process. So we took a regular acoustic guitar and drew just before GeekCon, that convention that I previously reminded, those 3 days convention that you build something with a group. So here it's at the Garage Geeks, we just drew one hole and we said, okay, we can draw holes through the next. Okay, so we're ready to go. And first day at GeekCon, it was 2 days. I sat down with 2 other guys until I think 3 a.m. just preparing the holes, 60 holes inside and LEDs inside the neck of the guitar, and then hooking some smart card, Arduino it's called. And this is how it looks. So you can see the LEDs that tell you where to place your finger when you fret the guitar. And I want to show you an example of LED Zeppelin. So it's a LED. Can you barely see something? So it was working, and the day after it wasn't working. So that's how it goes with most of these projects. But recently I started doing some projects which last some longer time. And this is another great things that you need to accomplish. You don't really need to build it just for one day for this bunch of kids. You need to build it for somebody that needs to run it live in front of an audience many times. You're not there, you're just giving them the firmware and the product, and that's it. So that's pretty scary. That's fooling around, okay? So that's a Dove Sheet Dove project. It's a huge dove from paper with a motion detection underneath. So it detects if somebody goes underneath, and it has a mechanism that press and just throw a chunk of dove soap on top of your head. So that's a Dove Sheet Dove project. Another thing that we did in Keren, it's tweet cheaters. At the time, a person that always tweets about everything that he does was referred as a tweet cheater. So we hooked the toilets with just a magnet detection. So if somebody was going into the toilet, it was tweeting into a Twitter account some random text that we wrote based, of course, on the amount of time that he was there. And we said that we will hook it into Google Analytics, but we didn't. Here is a very inspiring device, again in the music theme, called the Reactable. It's an amazing device with projector underneath and motion sensing, and everything is creating music. So you place objects and you create music with that. So we want to create something like that. It was mind-blowing at the time. Today we're beyond that. Everybody are, okay, it does music. I can touch that and it does music. Nothing fancy, but that was like 7 years ago. So again, we took a regular laptop, and we wanted to, our vision was to create an affordable version of that amazing Reactable. So here you have a webcam and few elements that you can, the software detects, and was connected to music and controlling music by the orientation and the ID of the element. And then I gave it to a few people to wear those devices, and they were associated to some sound wave that they gave me, and I called it like a tangible kabuki. Again, fun, not so useful, but along the way you learn a lot of things about software, about music, about people, about working with people in a constrained environment. and you increase your skills. Getting dressed, I like to mix three things in my creations. One of them is technology, another one is games, and the other one is self-embarrassment. So if you're making a fool of yourself, that's a good word of mouth to spread some viral video clip about you. So the theme here was the idea here was to create a Fron custom. That's a helmet that these guys created. You take there is a software that you can take a 3D object and put it into it, and it gives you a paper cut that you can fold like an origami and create the same object. Just make sure about the resolution so you won't have too many polygons. And that's sort of the final creation. It was sort of a Bati Oziel, if you're familiar with this person. It wasn't a lot about software or rocket science, but it was about doing something geeky together. Again, with a deadline, so it wasn't very easy, so we had to work fast. And these are EL wires, electroluminescence. It's just like fluorescent, but in wires. So it was pretty buzzy suit, and that's the original, and that's myself with a pretty large helmet on the right. Games, so the Wii. Again, something that we are beyond, but before the Wii, there was a console war. There was a war between Microsoft and the PlayStation. Like Xbox and the PlayStation was like an arm war. More content, more CPU, more. They're saying that the people at Arab countries are using PlayStations for their atomic reactors. And then came this lame console with the same content, very weak infrastructure of a console. The same content, they used the same games. They didn't came up with a new game, but they had something that we were not familiar. They had an experience factor, and we were blown away by that. So nowadays, I'm playing with my hands, no worries. So I wanted to create a superhero person at that time that is functioning as the remote controller. So again, no rocket science, taking the regular remote, disassembling it, lots of SMD, not SMD, very fragile soldering, and that's me with that's a fully functional remote, so people can press it here, and the accelerometer was in my arm. That's one of the projects, the first project that I did with when entering that group of geeks called Guitar Hero Noid. She's falling asleep. So the idea here was to let the robot play the game of Guitar Hero. So we took, and again, another important thing was not to do anything intrusive. So take a real guitar and place it on a robot, and the robot will get the feed of the game, and we'll play the game. And that's the second hand of the robot, and that's just how the things goes with the PlayStation, goes into the computer, and we'll go back to the not accelerometer, solenoids. It's like those electric things in your car that lock the door. So they were pressing the fingers. And that's the final how it looks. And this guy was touring around the world in a few conventions in La Web and Boston, and that's how it plays. So he was only detecting the plates that coming towards you. Whenever he sees something really next to the end, then he clicks. Windows. Yeah, I love computers. So another, that was nice. Pause the recording. Will it play from here? Yeah. So another project, a real virtual skater. Again, this was created before there was such a device on the market, and the idea was to increase the experience factor while playing the game. So this game was played using your fingers. You're riding a skateboard game using your fingers. So we want to take a real skateboard and ride on a real skateboard while playing the game. So you'll not be able to see the skateboard there, but we also modify the resources inside the game so it will resemble the skater. And again, we mode, no rocket science, but taking some motion detection element, placing it attached to a skateboard, projecting the game in front of you, dressed as you, and you're riding on a game, playing that game, riding on a skateboard and playing the game. And today there is such a device, a pressure board that you, not exactly by skating, but you feel more as if you're doing the real thing. Because these games are not, what is the skill that you're gaining over there? It's not Candy Crush, but it's something else. It's like playing Guitar Hero. You're not playing Guitar Hero, you're fantasizing that you are the guitar playing. You're actually playing some air guitar of your favorite band, and you're thinking that you're the rock star. So it's a fantasy game, and the same here. So we want to take the experience of flying and see if we can give such experience to people. So we took a small crane and some sleeping bag that attached to few wings from a unmanned aerial vehicle, like a malat. And in front of you, there's another airplane, but not really related to the project, but it's doing one very important thing. It's blowing tons of wind at you, like. So while you standing like that in the air with virtual reality goggles on your eyes, so you don't see anything. You just see Google Earth projecting the ground underneath and lots of wind at you. And underneath, if you can see underneath the wind, again, the Wiimote. So again, no rocket science, but something which was very claustrophobic and very thrilling for the people who experience it. So this is how it looks. You're not accomplishing anything. You're getting a new experience of something that you haven't had before. So everybody after the Wiimote were doing Kinect, right? Waving their hands and identifying skeletons. So I thought to myself that I need to take one step further because I don't want to do, I want to be a little bit different. So I find out that, that's the title of the project is let's play Angry Birds using my thoughts. And it came after I realized that there is such a device for $300 that doesn't read your mind. It's more inspiring and inspiring us as if it's a mind reader, but it's called emotive. So it's not emotion. It's like taking 14 microphones and putting them on your computer and let's see what the computer is doing right now. So I see that the GPU fan is working, so I guess maybe you're operating some movie or something. But it doesn't know that you clicked on a certain movie and what's the name of the movie and what's that specific cluster on your hard drive. So that's the same here. It's emotions. It's something very. It's not that subtle. It's not that sensitive. But still, you can map few emotions, and you don't want to get ALS and need this kind of equipment. Eventually, if you want to do something with the brain, with nowadays technology, you just need to take part of the skull or maybe put some needles inside. And this is how I play the game. Yeah, it's my wife standing in front of me, so I'm telling her that I don't see anything. Can you see anything? And that's me with my hands crossed. And here I was a little bit lucky because I hit the ground and then the final brick. And do I have more time? Or the bell? So a few tips, thinking outside the box or thinking outside the box. You need to think as well inside the box, because inside the box, that's where the problem is. Outside the box, there are many solutions, the solution space. But every now and then, when you try to solve a solution, go back to the problem and remind yourself what you're trying to solve. An example from a company called SEAT is about two prisoners that they dug a tunnel outside of prison, and they don't know where to hide the dirt, so where can they hide the dirt? So eventually they hide the dirt inside the tunnel. So every day they were digging and putting the sand with the bags inside the tunnel. I know that physically it's not a solution, but that's the idea, that the solution can be inside the problem as well. A few more examples about thinking inside the box, how to enhance speech recognition. So speech is something that comes from our lips. So if you add lip detection or recognition to speech recognition in a noisy environment, you can enhance the speech recognition as well. Distribute, that's a tip about, a few tips about not just thinking inside the box, but doing all sort of projects or things that you have to solve. So distribute means that if you build something, don't build everything in one unit. Don't glue everything together, because you might want to replace one of the parts. So in this example, in iMac, when the webcam breaks, then there's no computer, so you need to take everything for repair. It doesn't look that good, but distribute, what do you do? And that's not interesting. That's not interesting. Time, it's tips about creating projects in, let's say, 3 days. And team, get some rest, and scope. So eventually, if I remind fun previously, in those 3 days or 2 days or resource-less environment, when you try to do something which is not mission critical, you should remember what you want to accomplish and not fight about everything. No, without that, it's we're not going to do it, because otherwise you might not hit the target that you eventually wanted to hit. So scope is also important. And in this example, yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted something that fires underneath the wing. So I made few compromises here. Thank you very much, and now go create something.
אתם רוצים הפסקה? 5 דקות הפסקה? יאללה, ממשיכים, אבל... ג'ייקוב, איפה אתה? To be honest, I never ever met Jacob Greenshpan before, but I'm always looking for good speakers, and I've been told by a French Bat and Roy from Google that they never take any decision on UX UI without consulting with Jacob Greenshpan. So this is why I'm so excited to be his host tonight.
Thank you. Wait a second, I'm still preparing. Where is it? Oh, good.
Jacob is also joining us as a mentor at StartUpOnomics Tel Aviv with Professor Ariely.
Right.
And we're also excited about that. When everybody is going to learn, I'm going to be sitting in a swimming pool with a caipirinha and have fun.
Right.
What did you decide, English or Hebrew?
English. Hi there. אני צריך את העזרה שלך שאני אגיד לך תעלי עם זה לבמה.
Okay.
Hi everybody, I know it's getting late and I am ADHD. So whenever I speak too fast, start speaking about weird things, I'm here, tell me Jacob, slow down, it's perfectly okay. You're a small audience, it's perfectly all right. And I'm going to share with you my ideas about boxes, gravity and anti-gravity while designing user experience. So I do apologize for some Hebrew. I didn't plan to give this lecture in English, sorry. I was planning to give it in Hebrew, so some of the slides might have a little Hebrayish. So it's just a warning for everybody who don't know the famous song. And I'm going to show you what I think. So whenever I sound too definite, it's just that I'm getting excited, right? So this is just sharing my thoughts with you. Hope it will work for us all. Great. Now let's talk about the problem, because I'm going to talk to you about the problem of us human beings. Anybody recognize human skull? Gulgolet? Anyone? This one. This is the Homo sapiens. Okay? And we all think that we are Homo sapiens, but we are not. We are Homo locus. That's my invention. Locus because we are completely locked in our ideas. We can't get out of the box. And this is what I want to share with you, how to try to get out of the box. And here's a little example. We used to kill each other by throwing stones over each other's, right? And then we evolved and we have invented the caputilla, right? This is a Roman machine throwing stones to a much farther distance. Great. And then we evolved and we invented the cannons. And then we evolved and now it's in the First World War. And you can see here French soldiers using caputilla, modern caputilla, to throw hand grenades over the enemies. Come on guys, 2,000 years and still throwing stones. Are we out of our minds? Can't we kill each other in a much better, efficient way? Well, this is one example of how we are so locked. And even if we try to be so special, look at this magnificent tie, right? It still looks like a tie. We haven't broke our paradigm, never ever, within so many years. So even when we try to be special, we are not special at all. Am I speaking too fast? Do you want me to slow down? Are you all awake? Because there's no little lamp here which blinks when you think. So I can hardly tell if you are listening to me or dreaming about, okay, forget it. Okay, and I want to make one discrimination between two things, wow and walla. Wow, we all know what wow is, right? And it's something glimmering, something fantastic, something exciting, perfect. Walla, for those who don't speak Hebrew, actually Arabic, if to be more correct, precise, walla is an Hebrew word saying, wow, that's a great idea, how couldn't I think of it before? Now I understand it all, right? This is walla, right? So walla, and typically when we try to be creative, we typically try to address the wow. And it's a very bad idea. We should try to address the walla and not the wow. And this is exactly what I want to try to share with you. And the basic question is, why are we so locked? So here is my humble opinion. It's about mental models. This is the reason why we are all so locked. This is a picture I took in Tel Aviv. It's called Pizza Tzorfatit al Gechalim, and in English, French pizza barbecue style. What am I going to get out when I order French pizza barbecue style?
God knows. I don't have a mental model for this. And this is exactly what a mental model is. The user's mental model of a system is a rich and elaborated structure. Stop a second. It means that psychologists were involved here. Only psychologists can put words such rich and elaborated structure. What is rich and elaborated structure? Nobody knows. Forget it. But it goes on with something much more important. Reflects our understanding of what the system contains, how it works, and why it works the way it works. Right? So this is mental model. Here is an example. What is a carriage? A carriage has 4 wheels, right? It has power source in the front, in this case few horses. It has passengers on the back, and it has a driver's seat between the power source and the passengers, right? This is a carriage. Now let's move forward a few years and let's look at the car. Anybody recognize this specific model? Ford T, right? It never changed. Let's think about it together. It has 4 wheels, like a carriage. It has power source in the front, like the horses. It has passengers sitting in the back, like the old carriage. And it has a driver between the passengers and the power source. Why is that? It's because we are all completely locked in our conceptions. Putting an engine weighing few hundred kilograms in the front, and in case of accident, it simply gets into the vehicle and kills us all, is a very bad idea. But we are still locked. And this is exactly what we mean by mental models. What does the system contain? Why does it contain these elements? How does it work? And why does it work the way it does? This is mental model. And whenever we try to design any new system, we typically use our conceptions and models that we already have about previous systems. Here's an example. This is my lively daughter. What is she telling you now? Please call me, right? Now, why is she doing that? Because there used to be phones like this, right? And they used to look like this, and there was a headset, right? There's this place here, the headset. And basically, nobody has it today. How does your phone looks today? Like this, right? So this is the way that she told me, call me. But nobody does call me this way, right? Why? Because we are all locked in our conception of the way that phones should look like. So we're using the old handset. We are completely locked. I don't have a clue about the time, but okay. Am I okay? Okay, I don't care. Fine. So let's take a look at the old world, okay? For example, MS Word. If you are looking at MS Word, it's a piece of paper. If you want to move some text from place to place, what do? Anybody can help me? You cut it. Wait a second. I have a present for you here. Yes. You cut it. And then you put it in your clipboard. I didn't bring a clipboard, right? And then you take it from the clipboard and you paste it using a glue. Come on, it's 2014. Nobody cuts a piece of electrons in your computers. But this blocks us. This makes us think about word processing as a piece of paper. This is mental models. Now let's get back to the future. That is now. Let's have a look, for example, on this App Store. For example, the Google Play. I have a question here. Wait a second. It's about time to talk, to say something. Alrighty. What is this? What is this? Perfect. What is this? Candies. What are these together? Perfect. Candy Crush. It's unbelievable. We are smashing candies at 2014. Can you kindly get to the stage? Where are you, Miss Satya? I have a clue here. What am I doing now? Oh, that was the Candy Crush. That was the Candy Crush. Alrighty. Hold the stripe. Wait. Come here. Are you ready? Be careful. Yes. Come here again. Alrighty. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Miss Satya. Get off my stage. Perfect. What are we doing here? It's a You know, it's Angry Birds, right? So basically, if we think about this, we are actually imitating real environment facilities while making games. And think of that, we'll skip this one. Actually, draw something is all just the same. And if you think about this, there is a little prize here that I want to give you. Anyone who will shoot me an email to this address, this is my address. Great promotion, by the way. This is my address. Anybody will shoot me an email giving me a name of an application which does not have any real world equivalent, real physical world equivalent, will get an invitation to this great restaurant. A double invitation, you don't have to take me, okay? You take any, I mean, it's not a prize, it's a second place, okay? Anybody who will shoot me an email, this one application which does not have any equivalent in the real environment will be invited to this restaurant on me, of course, needless to say. Okay? Double invitation. Take your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or your lover or whoever you want. Okay? And it's a quite of expensive one and I don't care because nobody will succeed. Think of it. Take a few seconds. Think about one application which does not have any real physical world equivalent. There isn't. Great. And before talking about getting out of the box, we have to think, should we always get out of the box? Well, we all know, most people here are designers, I know you, right? And as the designers, we keep on hearing our customers saying things like, make it cool, exceptional, something that no one has, something cool, white, you know, like Apple. Have you heard that? Nobody has, like Apple, something different. And we keep on hearing this great demand, and then you bring them something really nice, and they say, wow, great, it is so creative. Not even one of our competitors has it. And then you get a phone call saying, actually, no one does this. Why don't we just take out? And you end up feeling like a baseball hit by a bat. Right? Because basically you end up with nothing because people are afraid to be a little bit too creative. And actually, it's not that bad idea if you think about this. Anybody recognize this picture? It's Pandora giving the box. Okay? Here's the box of Pandora. It's an old painting of Pandora, and you never know what will get out of the box. Actually, there's a toy back to the 18th century in the United States. Do you know this toy? This Jack in the Box, right? And it's really scary. Look at the face of this little kid. And nobody knows what will get out of the box. When you think out of the box, it can be really a disaster, right? And actually there's a name for it in the DSM-3. It's the diagnostic book by the psychologist. It's called colorophobia. It's being afraid from clown. But get back to business, you never know what is going to get out of the box. Here's a great example. I want to share with you the winner of the Darwin Award site of 2008. Do you know Darwin Award? It's a great site actually giving a prize, virtual prize, for the people who died in the most creative way. Actually, most stupid way. Why Darwin? Because you don't want them to keep on reproducing themselves. So if they kill themselves, it's a good sign. So this is the winner of 2008. He was really creative guy. Look, he was a British guy, he wanted to clean the chimney. Aruba for all of Israeli, right? And he took the sweeper was too short. He didn't get all the way in the chimney. So he took a chain and just tied it to the chimney. But this whole structure was completely too light, so we had to add a little weight. So we went back to his garage and found a weight. And what was the weight? Right you are, an old military hand grenade, the one from the First World War. And he actually welded it, and it still didn't explode. Now this magnificent, cool guy, I should have met this guy, was a lazy one, and he didn't even put off the fire in his fireworks, and then it exploded, okay? And he killed himself. So this is a very bad idea of being too creative, and you have to be very careful about that. Now I want to share with you some tips and tricks that works for me if I decide to be a little more creative. So first tip, it just works for me. It's not the Bible or something. but it just works for me. Lose your brakes downhill, okay? Lose your brakes downhill. Sorry for Hebrew, it's a little bit, sorry, I didn't plan to do it in English. Okay, it's just from Kafka. When you get to the gate, don't be afraid to pass the gate. This is what this whole story speaks about. Okay, and basically you think about Buddha. Buddha, you know, in Hebrew it's Buddha, but it's, you know, it's Buddha in English. So Buddha, basically, Buddhism says that there's a reality and there's me. And it's only me to interpret the reality, right? There's no bad or good, there's no nice or poor, there's reality. And there's what I select to interpret reality. Or in my words, reality is overrated. Do ignore reality when you design something innovation. Forget about reality. Don't give a shit, don't give anything about reality. Forget about reality. Now here's an example. This is a dam. Back in the Second World War, the British wanted to rule, to bomb some dams in Germany. However, no plane could carry heavy enough bomb while hitting this dam from this direction. It simply won't crack it. So it was an unsolvable problem since they ignored reality. What have they done? This is the Lancaster, the British bomber of that time, and what they've done is basically they created a little bomb in the shape of a barrel here. And there was a little electrical motor which turned this barrel very fast. Now the plane was dropping this barrel, it jumped over the water and then hit the wall. In a second you'll see the plane coming, hopefully, yes. And then they flying really, really low compared to standard bombing from high altitude. And now it throws the bomb, it keep on rolling, it's rolling, it hits the wall, and since it's rolling, actually this direction, it goes deep into the water and explode underwater. Now, since it explodes underwater, there's a counterback force against the gas. And what happened is it cracked the dam, and this is the result. The dams were destroyed. That's because they ignored reality, for my humble opinion. So this is a great idea, and typically, people like us, ADHD, yes, people like us, ADHD, would keep on telling us, keep quiet, stop with your weird things. No, don't take Ritalin, 10 milligrams, take ADHD 10 milligrams. It helps you a lot. Don't even stop thinking. Keep on with your thought, ignore reality, and ideas will appear. I'm finishing in a short time, okay? Are you okay? Yes, because it's late and okay. Fine, try to walk. It's written here in Hebrew by T.S. Eliot, my favorite one. Try to walk in your memory in a code of us that you've never been here, into a door that you never opened, right? Try to think about that. Now, the second technique is the metaphors, which I use, and it helps me a lot. Right, the Forer effect. Anybody is familiar with the Forer effect? So, Forer effect is named after the American psychologist Forer, and basically it says something like this. If you give people a vague enough description about themselves, they will tend to think that this is all about them. This is why horoscopes works very well. Here is an example. I knew that it would be Hebrew Israeli audience here, so it's written in Hebrew. I do apologize. Read this for 1 second, and think if it matches you. It perfectly matches you, right? You're a thinking person, undoubtedly. This is the most center characteristic of you. You're analytic. I mean, if it's vague enough, you'll think about it as yourself. Why is that? Because we are, as human beings, have great ability to find patterns, to match between A and B, even though A and B are completely not matching, and use this ability. That is, think about a metaphor which has nothing to do with the system that you are just currently designing, and try to see how this imaginary area fits into your system. I want to apologize, Mario, right now, because it's a text from a very ancient Kabbalah book. Kabbalah is a Jewish mysticism, right? Kabbalah, right? So I do apologize, will be in Hebrew, I can't translate it, I'll try to do my best, okay? Just a little part in Hebrew. So it's called the Tree of Light, Etz HaChaim of Chaim Vital, okay? He was the student of the Ariely, and I think that the paint, MS Paint, is basically like creating the world. Here it goes. It starts, Etz HaChaim starts with this. Do know that before anything was created, there was a full light filling all reality. This is what's written in Hebrew, right? So it means that God needs a canvas. Okay, canvas, so there's a window. Perfect. So it's a place to work in. And then it's written in this book. And that light, there wasn't a beginning and there wasn't an end. There was just full light and endless, infinite light. Now, if I'm living in an infinite environment, it's a good idea that I can scroll. So I added a scroller, right? And it goes on and on and on and on. And it ends up with this. And then God took the light a little bit aside and opened a space for our world to be created. Okay? I know that you didn't think that we learned at 8:30 at night how the world was created by Israeli mysticism, but it's a very good idea. So, back to business. There was a place for the light, and in this place it means that the place where I can put my objects on. And here we go, you got MS Paint. Now, since I didn't convince you, here's another example. I want to design part of Facebook second generation by thinking of it as an orange trees. Why orange trees? Because that's the first picture that I picked up, okay? Just orange trees. This is where I jog, where I run. Yes, very nice. Well, let's talk about the observation. An orange is an individual fruit. We are not grapes, right? Huh. Okay, so what the implication in designing Facebook 2? It should be able to customize how my page look like, right? Because I'm individual, so I should be customized. Now that's stating the obvious. Now let's see what the oranges gives me in a little deeper levels. Oranges were picked in a group from the same tree. Group. Okay, give the group the ability to mark themselves as a group. It does not exist actually in Facebook 1. It does in a way that you can open a page for a group like this, but there are no really group notion in Facebook. Probably this is why they purchase WhatsApp. And in addition, oranges from the same tree are brothers. Not all oranges are close to each other as the other. So you might want to support indication of how close you are to your friends. Today, my wife, my sister, my family, my good friends are marked in Facebook just as anyone who tries to be my friend in Facebook. And by the way, I approve anybody. I mean, everybody want to be my friend, my Facebook's friend? Perfect, I approve everybody. So it means that this little tree teaches me that if I think about Facebook as a tree of oranges, I will learn better how to design Facebook too. And it doesn't matter which metaphor do you select. Believe me, the farther the better, or so. Why is that? Because if this is the product that you know it by now, this is your current mental model, which I mentioned before. And this is the metaphor that you use. You can see that the pure blue area is the ideas that you couldn't think about if you would stick to what you know before. This is the advantage of the metaphor. This area here, right? This one here. Don't forget, this is what we lose, because the metaphor typically won't cover each and every aspect of the system that you want to create. There are prices for that. And basically you can select a metaphor like this, which is really, really bad, because if you select a metaphor like this, you won't gain anything. And you can make it like this, which has a bigger out-of-the-box component, and you can make it like this. You can select a metaphor which completely will drive you completely different from the system that you wanted to. It's dangerous and creative and good and bad at the same time. It depends on your goals. But you can select the metaphor that you want. It's completely doable. Right. Perfect. And my last tip, Sobi, is visual and other walkthrough. Okay, what I spoke till now was top down. Think of that. I spoke about ideas which starts from a high level such as metaphor and goes down into the details, right? But you can make the same going from bottom up. Start at the bottom and go up, and I'm going to show you a little experiment that I've done before. Okay, sorry for the literature here, for all the Hebrew readers. Okay, take yourself to a museum, believe me. A museum, not Facebook. Don't try to look for pictures in Facebook. Go to a museum. Why? Because a museum has randomly selected pictures as much as you're concerned, right? So go to a museum. I love the Ariely in Caesarea. It's a great museum. I strongly advise you to go there and start to see picture. Now, if you start to look at picture and think of the system that you are currently now designing, you will find out that you get great ideas from that. This is a picture, I think it was in Austria, in a little museum. But here is an experiment that I've done in Google. In Google, I helped them with UX mentorship for young startups. And I gathered about 100 people. Everybody wanted to join. It was an open session. Came with their smartphones. And they got the most trivial task. I want you to design a new email. Now, email is such a trivial application, right? So ask them, design a new email and try to think of something new. How do I want you to do that? I want you to take yourself out of the building and take some pictures of what you see and think how this picture has related to emails, okay? 100 people in the building got the task to find a new approaches to email, not necessarily design the whole email, of course, just new approaches. Go out and take pictures, and this is what they brought. This guy here handling files with mails, okay? So he thought, okay, this is one way I use email, and the other one just took a picture of the road with cars moving. If I were a train, I'd be late. Who gave priority inbox a chance? Ah, that's interesting, because the inbox gets in the way that in its arrival order, but hey, there's priority over there where you can tackle this. And someone wrote me, this is how it feels to click reply in Google, in Gmail. So they all of a sudden speaking about security. How do I feel when I press reply using an email? This is something really innovative. Nobody thinks about the emotions of replying to an emails. And this guy here, so a little kid playing outdoor and say gamification. Why email should be so boring? It can be gamified. And the other one said layers, and the other one said accessibility. That's because he showed a little toothbrush for little kids there. And one said small, big, heavy, as much concerned to email. And finally, an interesting one. You get all of this bunch of emails and you can't find the interesting one. And well, that's a very good idea while designing new email system. So how can we find the interesting one? And it worked for us. All of a sudden, people saw that simply by going outside, picking pictures basically randomly, they got new ideas for a design task that they couldn't think of in no other way. This is what we call it bottom up. It starts from below and going up. In another event I made there, I've invited a quartet playing Mozart. Okay, real live. And there was a DJ on the other room playing some really tough music. And I asked people to design, while listening to music, I want you to design a new way of giving feedback to the hotel you have just stayed, just like TripAdvisor and so forth. Right, so this is what I got. I got lots of papers, and let's take a deep dive into it. This is somebody who takes this design while listening to rock music. You can see the aliens with many eyes here. Well, it's a direction. And this is somebody who listened to classical music. You can see how his design, or her design, don't recall, becomes more smoother, more analog, right? And this one here, sorry for the Hebrew, thought, oh, if this guy, this weird guy, me, they meant, is thinking about cross-modality, so let's think about other things such as sour, salty, bitter, sweet. Okay, let's do it this way. And the other one came up with a really nice idea. She said, if I like somebody, I clip my hands, right? So if I clip my hands louder, it means that I like it the most. So why won't we tap on the mobile device And this will reflect how much did I like the hotel. Now this is something that without hearing tempo while designing this little task could not never ever be achieved. Now talking about clapping, it's a good idea to say thank you very much for your time and patience. See you. Thank you.
טוב, תודה רבה. תם ונשלם טקס המפגש. אפשר להזמין לפרופ הבא. מריו is Design and Innovation Thinking Workshop, 8 hours workshop on April 1st in 2 days. And we're gonna, Pontus is hosting the workshop and you're more than welcome to ask us about the prices